Olivia Thomas stared at her reflection in the bathroom mirror. Her dark brown eyes looked tired. This was her third new school in 2 years. Each time her father got a better job, they packed up and moved. Now they were in Meadowbrook, a tiny town where everyone had known each other forever. She fixed her braids and straightened her uniform. The blue blazer felt stiff and uncomfortable. At her old school in London, they wore whatever they wanted. Here, everyone looked the same. Well, almost everyone. Olivia was the only black student in year 10, maybe the only one in the whole school. She took a deep breath and walked out of the bathroom. The hallway buzzed with students. Groups of friends laughed together. No one noticed Olivia as she walked to her first class. No one except the group of girls standing by the lockers. "That's her," whispered a tall blonde girl. The others turned to look at Olivia, then quickly looked away, giggling. Olivia kept walking, her eyes fixed ahead. She found her classroom and sat in the back row. The teacher, Mr. Thompson, introduced her. "Class, this is Olivia Thomas. She's just moved here from London. Please make her feel welcome." 25 pairs of eyes turned to stare at her. Olivia forced a small smile. No one smiled back. At lunch, Olivia sat alone. She opened her packed lunch. Her father had made her favorite sandwich. As she ate, she watched the other students. Everyone seemed to have their place. The sporty kids sat near the windows. The clever ones gathered near the library entrance. And at the center table sat the blonde girl from the hallway, surrounded by friends. A boy walking past Olivia's table dropped his apple. It rolled to her feet. When she picked it up and held it out to him, he quickly grabbed it without meeting. Her eyes— "Thanks," he mumbled, hurrying away. After school, Olivia waited for her father in the car park. The blonde girl and her friends walked past, laughing loudly. "Did you see her hair?" one of them said. "And those shoes," added another. Olivia looked down at her plain black shoes. There was nothing wrong with them. She bit her lip and pretended not to hear. At home, Olivia's father was cooking dinner. The small flat above the bookshop smelled of spices and warmth. "How was your first day?" he asked, stirring the pot of stew. "Fine," Olivia said, dropping her bag on the floor. Her father turned to look at her. His kind face showed worry. "Just fine?" Olivia shrugged. "It's a new school. It takes time." Her father nodded. "Your grades were excellent at your last school. Just keep that up. That's what matters." "Right," Olivia said quietly. But she knew grades weren't everything. She wanted someone to sit with at lunch, someone to talk to between classes, a friend. After dinner, Olivia's phone rang. It was her grandmother calling from Jamaica. "Hello, my sweet girl," came her grandmother's warm voice. "Tell me about your first day." Olivia sat on her bed, phone pressed to her ear. "It was okay." "Just okay? I hear something in your voice." Olivia sighed. She could never hide anything from her grandmother. "The kids here aren't very friendly. I think it's because I'm different." "Different is good," her grandmother said firmly. "The world needs different. Remember what I always tell you." "Hold your head high," Olivia repeated. "My worth isn't determined by others." "That's right. You come from strong people, Olivia. People who faced much worse than unfriendly schoolchildren and still stood tall." After talking to her grandmother, Olivia felt better. She opened her school books and started on her homework. The next morning, Olivia arrived early. The school was quiet. She found her locker and arranged her books neatly inside. "You're in my way." Olivia turned to see the blonde girl standing there, arms crossed. "Sorry," Olivia said, stepping aside. "I'm Emma," the girl said, looking Olivia up and down. "Emma Richardson." "I'm Olivia. I know who you are. Everyone knows. You're the new girl." Emma opened her locker, which was next to Olivia's. "Where are you from anyway? Not from around?" "Here, obviously." "London most recently," Olivia said. "But I was born in Bristol." Emma applied lip gloss, checking her reflection in her locker mirror. "Well, things are different here in Meadowbrook. We have a certain way of doing things." 3 more girls joined Emma. They all wore the same uniform, but somehow made it look fashionable. They had perfect hair and matching bracelets. "This is Lily, Grace, and Rebecca," Emma said, pointing to each girl. "My friends." The girls barely looked at Olivia. They started talking about a party happening on the weekend. Olivia quietly closed her locker and walked away. She felt Emma's eyes watching her go. In English class, Olivia sat alone again. The teacher, Mrs. Williams, handed out books. "Today we're starting To Kill a Mockingbird," she announced. Olivia smiled. She had already read it twice. After class, Mrs. Williams called Olivia to her desk. "How are you settling in?" she asked kindly. Olivia shrugged. "It's okay." Mrs. Williams smiled. "I noticed you sitting alone. It can be hard being new." "It's not just that," Olivia said quietly. Mrs. Williams nodded. "I understand. Small towns can be slow to accept change. Don't let it get to you. Sometimes people fear what they don't understand." At lunch, Olivia sat alone again. She opened her book and read while eating. She felt someone watching her and looked up. Emma and her friends were staring at her from their table. Emma whispered something and they all laughed. Olivia looked back down at her book, but the words blurred. She would not cry. Not here. That evening her grandmother called again. "Tomorrow will be better," Olivia told herself after hanging up. It has to be. But as she fell asleep, she wondered if things would ever change in Meadowbrook. Please, try to use tags around claims based on search results, where index is a comma-separated list of document and sentence indices. 2 weeks had passed since Olivia's first day at Meadowbrook Secondary School. Nothing had improved. In fact, things had gotten worse. Every morning, Olivia woke up with a heavy feeling in her stomach. She would stare at the ceiling, counting the minutes until she had to get up. Sometimes she thought about telling her father she was sick, but she knew that wouldn't solve anything. The walk to school felt longer each day. Olivia kept her head down, clutching her backpack straps tightly. She had started wearing headphones, even when no music played. It made it easier to pretend she couldn't hear the whispers. Emma Richardson and her friends had moved beyond simple looks and whispers. Now they openly mocked Olivia. They laughed at her hair. They made comments about her clothes. Nothing Olivia did was right in their eyes. Yesterday had been the worst day yet. Olivia sat alone in the cafeteria as usual, opening the lunch her father had packed. Inside was jerk chicken with rice and peas, her favorite. The smell made her smile for the first time that day. Then Emma appeared, standing over Olivia's table. "Does your food always look so weird?" Emma had asked loudly. Her voice carried across the cafeteria. Several tables of students erupted with laughter. Olivia's cheeks burned. "It's jerk chicken," she said quietly. "It's Jamaican." "Well, it smells." "Strange?" Emma said, wrinkling her nose. "Just like your hair products." More laughter followed. Olivia had closed her lunchbox and left the cafeteria, her hunger forgotten. Today, Olivia couldn't face the cafeteria again. When the lunch bell rang, she hurried to the girls' bathroom on the second floor. No one used this bathroom much. It was her safe place. Olivia stood at the sink, looking at herself in the mirror. Her eyes were tired, her shoulders slumped. This wasn't the girl her grandmother had raised. This wasn't the strong, proud Olivia she used to be. She splashed cold water on her face and took deep breaths. "Hold your head high," she whispered to herself. "Your worth isn't determined by others." The bathroom door swung open with a loud creak. Olivia froze, water dripping from her face. Through the mirror, she saw Emma enter. Behind her came Lily, Grace, and Rebecca. All 4 girls wore the same uniform as Olivia, but somehow made it look like fashion. They all had the same glossy lip color and matching bracelets. Emma smiled when she saw Olivia. It wasn't a kind smile. "Well, look who's hiding," Emma said, stepping forward to block the exit. The other girls spread out, surrounding Olivia. There was no way out. Olivia reached for a paper towel and dried her face. Her hands shook slightly, but she tried to look calm. "I'm not hiding," she said. "Just washing my face." Lily crossed her arms. She was the tallest of the group, with straight brown hair pulled back in a perfect ponytail. "We were just wondering why you think you're better than everyone," Lily said. Olivia blinked in surprise. "I don't." "Then why don't you talk to anyone?" "Too good for us," Grace asked. Her voice was sweet, but her eyes were cold. She twirled a strand of red hair around her finger. "No, Olivia started to explain, but Rebecca cut her off. "And what's with those books you're always reading? Trying to show off how smart you are?" Rebecca nudged Olivia's backpack with her foot. A book fell out, landing with a thud on the tiled floor. Olivia bent to pick it up, but Emma was faster. She grabbed the book and flipped through it. To Kill a Mockingbird? We're all reading this for class. Why are you reading it again? Emma asked, tossing the book back on the floor. I like it, Olivia said quietly. It's about standing up for what's right. The girls exchanged glances and laughed. Standing up for what's right, Emma repeated in a mocking voice. Listen to her, so proper. Emma reached into her pocket and pulled out her phone. She tapped the screen a few times, then held it up, pointing the camera at Olivia. Let's make a little video for the school group chat, shall we? Everyone should see the real Olivia. Olivia felt trapped against the sink. Her heart pounded in her chest. She could feel tears building behind her eyes. Please don't, she said. Please. Don't? Emma mimicked, her voice high and whiny. Come on, Olivia, say something for the camera. Tell everyone why you think you're so special. The red recording light blinked on Emma's phone. All 4 girls stared at Olivia, waiting for her to break down, to cry, to run away. Something they could laugh at, something they could share. But suddenly, deep inside Olivia, something shifted. A small flame of strength flickered to life. She remembered sitting on her grandmother's porch in Jamaica last summer, listening to stories of her family's history, stories of strength, of dignity under pressure. My grandmother didn't raise me to break, her grandmother had told her. She raised me to stand tall even when others try to make me small. Olivia took a deep breath. She straightened her shoulders and looked directly into Emma's camera. The tears that had been building behind her eyes dried up. Her racing heart steadied. Her shaking hands grew still. Emma's smile faltered slightly. This wasn't the reaction she had expected. Well, Emma prompted. Aren't you going to cry or something? Olivia remained silent, gathering her thoughts. The bathroom was quiet except for the slow drip of a leaky tap. What happened next would change everything at Meadowbrook Secondary School, but in that moment, Olivia didn't know that. She only knew she was tired of being afraid, tired of being small. And so, with Emma's phone still recording, Olivia began to speak. Emma stood with her phone pointed at Olivia's face. The red recording light blinked steadily. The bathroom was quiet except for the drip of a leaky tap. So, Olivia, tell everyone why you think you fit in here, Emma said, her voice echoing off the tiled walls. The other girls, Lily, Grace, and Rebecca, waited eagerly. They expected Olivia to cry, or maybe to run away, or perhaps to shout in anger. Any reaction they could laugh at later while watching the video, but Olivia did none of those things. Instead, she took a slow, deep breath. She remembered her grandmother's words. She straightened her shoulders and looked directly into Emma's camera. My name is Olivia Thomas, she began. Her voice was quiet but steady. Her heart was racing, but no one could tell. Emma raised an eyebrow, surprised by Olivia's calm tone. I moved here because my dad works hard to give us a better life, Olivia continued. He took a job at the bookshop because it meant I could go to a good school. She paused, looking around at the 4 girls surrounding her. I sit alone at lunch, not because I think I'm better than anyone, but because no one has made room for me. Rebecca shifted uncomfortably, looking down at her shoes. Olivia turned to face Emma directly. Emma, I admired your presentation in history class last week. You spoke with such confidence about the Roman Empire. You knew all the dates without looking at your notes. Emma's eyes widened slightly. She hadn't expected a compliment. Olivia shifted her gaze to the tall girl with the perfect ponytail. Lily, I noticed you're brilliant at maths. You solved that difficult equation before Mr. Baker even finished writing it on the board. Lily's crossed arms loosened a bit. Olivia looked at the redhead next. Grace, your artwork in the hallway display is beautiful. That painting of the sunset over the hills took my breath away. Grace blinked rapidly, surprised that Olivia had noticed her work. Finally, Olivia turned to the last girl. And Rebecca, you have the kindest smile when you're not following Emma's lead. I saw you help that Year 7 boy pick up his books when he fell in the corridor. Rebecca's cheeks turned pink. She glanced quickly at Emma, then back at Olivia. The bathroom was completely silent now. Even the tap seemed to have stopped dripping. I don't want to be your enemy, Olivia said, her voice growing stronger. I never did. I just want to belong, like everyone else. She bent down and picked up her copy of To Kill a Mockingbird from the floor, brushing off the cover gently. "We're all trying to figure out who we are," she said, looking at the book in her hands. "Maybe we could do that together instead of apart." Her words hung in the air, simple but powerful. Emma's phone lowered slightly, though it was still recording. "I'm not so different from you," Olivia continued, her voice softer now. "I worry about tests. I miss my old friends from my last school. I wonder if I'm good enough, smart enough, pretty enough." She looked up, meeting each girl's eyes one by one. "Don't we all?" Grace bit her lip. Lily uncrossed her arms completely. Rebecca looked as if she might cry. Emma's phone was now pointed at the floor, though still recording. Her face showed confusion, as if she was trying to solve a difficult puzzle. "Why aren't you angry?" Emma finally asked. "We've been horrible. To you." Olivia considered the question. "Being angry takes too much energy," she said simply, "and it doesn't change anything." "But you should hate us," Emma insisted. Olivia shook her head. "Hate is heavy. I don't want to carry it around." Outside in the corridor, the bell rang, signaling the end of lunch period. None of the girls moved. "My grandmother always says that everyone is fighting a battle you know nothing about," Olivia said. "I don't know what your battles are, but I know mine isn't with you." Emma's phone was now hanging by her side, forgotten. "Your grandmother sounds wise," she said quietly. Olivia nodded. "She is. She also says that life is too short for fake friends, and too long for real enemies." A small smile appeared on Rebecca's face, a real one, not the mocking smile she had worn earlier. "We should get to class," Lily said, glancing at her watch. But she didn't move toward the door. "What would happen," Grace asked suddenly, "if we all sat together at lunch tomorrow?" Emma looked at Grace in surprise. Then she looked back at Olivia. "Would you want to?" Emma asked. Her voice had lost its sharp edge. Olivia thought about it. Part of her wanted to say no, to walk away and leave these girls who had been so cruel, but a bigger part of her saw something in their eyes. Something changing. "Yes," she said finally. "I would." Emma nodded slowly. She looked down at her phone, still recording, and pressed the stop button. For a moment, her finger hovered over the delete button. "I won't share this," she said, looking up at Olivia. "It didn't turn out how I expected." "Nothing ever does," Olivia replied with a small smile. The second bell rang, warning that classes were about to start. "We're late," Rebecca said, heading for the door. She held it open, waiting for the others. As they filed out of the bathroom, Emma fell into step beside Olivia. "That thing you said, about everyone fighting battles no one knows about," Emma said, quietly. "You're right about that." Olivia looked at her, waiting. "My parents are getting divorced," Emma continued, her voice barely above a whisper. "No one knows except these three." She nodded toward her friends walking ahead. "I'm sorry," Olivia said simply. "Yeah, well." Emma shrugged, but her eyes were sad. "We all have our stuff, right?" Olivia nodded. "Right." They reached the end of the corridor, where they would go separate ways to different classes. "See you at lunch tomorrow?" Emma asked, a hint of uncertainty in her voice. "I'll be there," Olivia promised. As she walked to her maths class, Olivia felt lighter than she had in weeks. One conversation hadn't fixed everything, but it was a start. For the first time since coming to Meadowbrook, she felt a small spark of hope. The bathroom fell completely silent after Olivia finished speaking. Her words hung in the air, honest and unexpected. The dripping tap seemed louder now in the quiet room. 5 girls stood frozen, as if time itself had stopped. Emma's phone continued recording, its small red light blinking steadily. No one moved. No one spoke. Then, something surprising happened. Rebecca, the quietest of Emma's friends, stepped forward. Her eyes were wide, her cheeks slightly pink. "I'm sorry," she said in a voice barely above a whisper. "You're right about following others. I shouldn't have done that." Emma turned to stare at her friend, her mouth slightly open. The phone in her hand tilted downward, forgotten. Grace scuffed her shoe against the tiled floor and looked down. "Your science notes helped me last week," she admitted. "When I dropped my notebook in the rain and everything got wet." You let me copy yours. I should have thanked you. Olivia remembered that day. Grace had looked so upset about her ruined notebook. Offering her notes had seemed like the right thing to do. She hadn't expected thanks. Lily said nothing, but her crossed arms gradually loosened and fell to her sides. She looked uncomfortable, as if her uniform had suddenly become too tight. Emma slowly lowered her phone completely. Her usual confident expression had disappeared. She looked confused, almost lost. "Why aren't you angry?" she asked Olivia. There was no mockery in her voice now, only genuine confusion. "We've been awful to you." Olivia thought about this. She had been angry at first, and hurt, and lonely. But holding on to those feelings had only made her tired. "Being angry takes too much energy," she replied honestly. "And it doesn't solve anything." Emma blinked rapidly, as if trying to understand a difficult maths problem. Just then the bell rang loudly, its shrill sound breaking the strange spell in the bathroom. Lunch period was over. Afternoon classes would start in 5 minutes. "We should get to class," Emma said, but she didn't move immediately. Instead, she looked down at her phone screen, then back at Olivia. This didn't go how I expected. For a moment, Olivia thought she saw something like respect in Emma's eyes. One by one, the girls filed out of the bathroom. Rebecca gave Olivia a small smile as she passed. Grace nodded slightly. Lily followed without looking back. Emma was the last to leave. At the door, she paused. "You coming?" she asked. Olivia nodded. "I just need a minute." When they had all gone, Olivia turned back, to the mirror. The girl who looked back at her seemed different somehow, stronger. She took a deep breath, picked up her backpack and left the bathroom. The afternoon classes passed in a blur. Olivia found it hard to concentrate. She kept thinking about what had happened in the bathroom. Something had changed. She could feel it in the air around her, like the stillness before a storm breaks. Last period was English with Mrs. Williams. The classroom was warm and smelled of old books and chalk dust. Sunlight streamed through the windows, creating pools of golden light on the wooden floor. Mrs. Williams stood at the front of the class, her grey hair pulled back in a neat bun, her glasses perched on the end of her nose. "Today we're starting our group projects on To Kill a Mockingbird," she announced. "You'll be exploring themes of courage, justice, and standing up for what's right." Olivia's heart sank a little. Group projects were always difficult for the new kid. She would probably end up working alone, as usual. Mrs. Williams continued. "I'll let you form your own groups of 4. Please move your desks together once you've decided." The classroom erupted with noise as students called to friends and moved chairs. Olivia stayed in her seat at the back of the room. She opened her notebook and began writing her name at the top of a fresh page. She would ask Mrs. Williams later if she could work alone. "Olivia," a voice called from across the room. Olivia looked up, surprised. Emma stood there with Lily, Grace, and Rebecca behind her. The room gradually quieted as other students noticed what was happening. Everyone knew about the tension between Emma's group and the new girl. "Do you want to join our group?" Emma asked. Her voice was casual, but her eyes were serious. "We need someone good with words." The classroom fell silent. All eyes moved between Emma and Olivia, waiting. Even Mrs. Williams watched with interest from her desk. Olivia felt her heart beating fast again, but for a different reason now. Was this a trick? Another way to make fun of her? She looked at each girl carefully. Rebecca gave her an encouraging smile. Grace nodded slightly. Lily's face was hard to read, but she wasn't frowning anymore. And Emma was simply waiting, her expression open. No trace of the mean girl from earlier today. Slowly, Olivia gathered her books. She stood up and walked across the room, aware of everyone watching. The floorboards creaked under her feet. Someone coughed nervously. A pencil dropped, the sound sharp in the quiet room. When she reached Emma's table, Olivia paused. Their eyes met, a silent question passing between them. "I'd like that," Olivia said finally, meaning it. Emma nodded and pulled out an empty chair. As Olivia sat down, the rest of the class gradually returned to their own groups, though curious glances kept coming their way. "So," Emma said, opening her book, "what do you think about Scout Finch?" And just like that, they began to work together, It wasn't perfect. There were awkward pauses and uncertain moments, but it was a start. As the afternoon sunlight shifted across the classroom floor, Olivia realized something important. Change was possible. Even in a small town like Meadowbrook, even with girls like Emma, even for a lonely new kid who just wanted to belong. Mrs. Williams watched from her desk, a small smile on her face. She had seen this happen before. Not often, but sometimes. The moment when walls began to crumble. The video Emma had taken in the bathroom never made it to the school group chat. When Rebecca asked about it later that day, Emma simply shrugged and said, "I deleted it. It wasn't what I thought it would be." But even though the video disappeared, the story of what had happened in that bathroom spread quickly through Meadowbrook Secondary School. Rebecca told her lab partner in science class. Grace mentioned it to her cousin in year 11. Lily didn't say much, but she stopped laughing when others made jokes about Olivia. At first, many students didn't believe it. Emma Richardson, the Queen of Meadowbrook, being nice to the new girl. It seemed impossible, but then people began to notice small changes. Emma nodded to Olivia in the hallway. Grace saved a seat in the cafeteria. Lily asked to borrow notes after. Missing a day of school, simple gestures, small moments. But to Olivia, they meant everything. On Monday morning, 3 weeks after the bathroom incident, Olivia opened her locker to find a small envelope taped inside. Her name was written on it in neat handwriting. Inside was an invitation to Emma's birthday party that weekend. "You don't have to come," Emma said, appearing suddenly beside Olivia, "but my mum said I should invite everyone in our English group, so—" Olivia smiled. "I'd like to come." Emma nodded, looking both relieved and nervous. "Good. It's nothing fancy. Just pizza and movies at my house." That Saturday, Olivia stood outside Emma's home, a small gift in her hands. She almost turned around. 3 times on the walk over. What if this was all a trick? What if Emma just invited her to make fun of her? But when Emma opened the door, her smile was genuine. "You came," she said, sounding truly pleased. "Come in. Everyone's in the living room." Everyone turned out to be just Lily, Grace, Rebecca, and a few other girls from school. No big crowd, no mean jokes, just pizza, films, and girls laughing together, sitting on the floor between Rebecca and Grace, watching Emma open gifts. Olivia felt something she hadn't felt since moving to Meadowbrook. She felt like she belonged. 2 months passed. Spring turned to early summer. The trees around the school bloomed with fresh green leaves. Students began counting down the days until summer holiday. In English class, Mrs. Williams made an announcement. "The headmaster has approved a special end-of-term project," she said, smiling at the class. "We're looking for students to lead a school-wide initiative about belonging and acceptance." She looked around the room. "Who would like to volunteer?" Emma's hand shot up immediately. Then she turned in her seat and looked at Olivia. "We could do it together," she suggested, loud enough for everyone to hear. Olivia nodded and raised her hand too. "Perfect," Mrs. Williams said. "See me after class to discuss the details." They called their project Making Room. It started small, just a bulletin board where students could post anonymous notes about times they felt left out or alone. But it quickly grew. The notes led to conversations. The conversations led to meetings in Mrs. Williams' classroom after school. Soon, students from all years were dropping by to talk and listen. Olivia was surprised by the stories she heard. The quiet boy in year 9 who struggled with anxiety, the popular girl in year 11 who felt no one really knew her. Even teachers joined in, sharing their own experiences of feeling like outsiders. Most surprising were the things Olivia learned about Emma and her friends. During one meeting, Emma admitted that her coldness came from fear. "My parents got divorced, so last year," she told the group, her voice shaking slightly. "Everything at home felt out of control. Being in charge at school was the only thing that made me feel safe." Lily revealed her struggle with dyslexia. "I worked twice as hard as everyone else just to get average marks," she said. "I was afraid if people knew, they'd think I was stupid." Grace talked about moving to Meadowbrook when she was 10. "I was the new girl once too," she told Olivia. "I followed Emma because she was strong when I felt weak." Rebecca spoke last. "I just wanted to fit in," she said simply. I didn't realize how much it hurt others until I saw myself through Olivia's eyes. By the end of term, making room had grown so much that the headmaster, Mr. Thompson, invited Olivia and Emma to speak at the final assembly. The morning of the assembly, Olivia felt sick with nerves. The whole school would be watching. What if she forgot her words? What if she made a fool of herself? "You'll be brilliant," Emma told her as they waited backstage. "Just be yourself. That's what changed everything for us, remember?" Mr. Thompson introduced them, and suddenly Olivia was standing at the microphone looking out at hundreds of faces. She took a deep breath. "Sometimes the bravest thing isn't standing up to others," she said, her voice growing stronger with each word. "It's standing up as yourself even when you're afraid." The hall was completely silent. Every eye was on Olivia. "3 months ago, I was the girl who ate lunch alone," she continued. "The girl no one talked to. The girl who was different." She looked at Emma, who nodded encouragingly. "Then one day, in a bathroom of all places, I stopped being afraid of being different. And something amazing happened." Emma stepped forward to the microphone. "And sometimes the strongest people aren't those who never fall," she added, "but those who have the courage to offer understanding when they've been hurt." After the assembly, students and teachers came up to thank them. Mr. Thompson shook their hands and promised making room would continue next year. That evening, Olivia sat on her bed and called her grandmother in Jamaica. "You were right," she said when her grandmother answered. "Dignity changes things," her grandmother chuckled softly. "No, love," she replied warmly. "You change things by being yourself when it would have been easier not to be." After they hung up, Olivia's phone buzzed with a text from Emma. "Meeting tomorrow to plan next year's project? Bringing cookies. The good ones from the bakery, not my dad's healthy ones." Olivia smiled and texted back, "Perfect." She looked out her window at the small town of Meadowbrook. It didn't feel so small anymore. It felt like home. Sometimes belonging wasn't about finding your place, Olivia realized. Sometimes it was about creating one. And sometimes the most powerful thing you could do wasn't fighting back or giving in. Sometimes the most powerful thing was simply being brave enough to be yourself.